Right, let's kick this thing off, shall we? Thank you, everybody, for coming along tonight to support us. Just remember, I only know what I know, and it'll be what it is. So I'm not an expert, I'm just a guy who's used quite a bit of audio tech in his time, as well as camera tech. But audio was my first kind of technical thing because I'm a musician. I've been playing music around the island here since I moved here in 2008. Before that, I used to play in Luxembourg. And so,
I was gonna do a like little presentation and
oh, I'm
like
sorry.
I was gonna like introduce you and everything.
I'll do
So,
that then. I'll go out and come in.
Right, okay, before Cam starts talking, we have oh no, okay, yeah. Just a few announcements. The Notion page, some people have trouble with editing it, and it's the three dots, and then you go to edit. Apparently, that's how you do it. So there are pages, the main page you can't edit, but there are pages underneath you can edit, so you can sort of put questions down for the other things. And next week, we have Nacho and Adita's talk. They have an amazing Instagram with 12,000 followers, and they're doing a talk on Instagram and hashtags. So even if you don't use Instagram or don't want to use Instagram, hashtags are still used everywhere. So it'll be good to see you there. We're recording this, so it'll be on the thing. We're not experts. If you want experts, then join the inner circle. Somebody will probably drop a link maybe in the chat. And I was going to introduce Cams, but I feel like Cams is good enough to introduce himself. So the Cams, everyone. Yay!
And yes, Ellison's asking if stuff is going to be in the calendar. We do have a Google Calendar, which is embedded on the Notion page, so we will be adding all the talks there as they get scheduled. So feel free to add that calendar to your own if you want to subscribe to it. So yes, audio. Audio, as far as I'm concerned, is as important, if not more important, than video. You can watch a good video that's got rubbish picture quality and good audio, and you will enjoy it. If you watch a really good quality picture and it's got bad audio, you'll hate it. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about different kinds of microphones. I'm going to talk about preamplification and compression and limiting. I'm going to demonstrate that using my extremely complicated audio gear that's surrounding me right now. So something might go wrong. I did a dummy run of this last night and lots of things went wrong. So hopefully I've kind of figured all that out. And then we're going to move on. I've got some questions about picture profiles. I've got a question about f-stops and what that all means in your camera. So I'm going to go into that a little bit with some demonstrations. And that's really the gist of it. So audio is going to be the main focus here, and then a little bit of camera stuff once Acta finishes her chat with Bav, because they are now organising a live Instagram chat for tomorrow night at 8 p.m. UK time. So if you want to catch up with Bav and Acta, you can catch them there. Right, I just had a good chat with my son, who's 14, and he's a gamer, he's a YouTuber. He's got 24,000 subs, something like that. He's doing okay. He watches a lot of gaming content, which is made by kids who are 14 or younger. And these kids have no idea about audio. So whenever Hamish is sitting with his iPad watching a YouTube video and I hear clipped audio, it makes my ears hurt and I make him turn it off. And he doesn't like that. So I'm going to demonstrate what clipped audio sounds like. I had Hamish send me a clip earlier onto a YouTube video.
You got like a homing bow over there? What do you mean? I have zero faith you can hit multiple bow shots. That's a homing bow! You're hitting me from 12 miles away! Admins report! Watchdog!
What?
Isn't it
Skeppy
awful?
exposed video. Exposed. Vape client. Exposed. 1 million views. What is
This is what he listens to all day long.
Exposed.
Dude, just because you're not good doesn't mean you. Oh my.
So this is kids sitting at their microphones with no compression, no limiting. They're just screaming into their mics, and it's causing the audio level to go beyond 0 dBs, which is where it starts to distort, and that's called clipping. And clipping is a thing you do not want in your audio. You can't fix it. So I'm going to go into my audio interface and show you what we can do about it. This is a digital representation of my digital mixer that I use as my sound card. I got it for mixing sound for my band, so it is overkill. There's absolutely no need to have something like this sitting on your desk. But for the purposes of demonstrating how you compress your audio, I think it's going to serve as well. So, right, this is the mix window that shows all of the channel inputs in my mixer. So yes, it's overwhelming. And if we come over to this channel strip here, where it says Heil PR40, that's this microphone here. This is my Heil PR40 microphone. So you can see as I talk into it, there's a level going up and down. If you come up to the top here, there's a section where it says pre. Microphones need to be amplified. Microphones work by taking sound pressure waves and converting them into electricity. So that's what every microphone on the planet is actually doing. And you get all sorts of different microphones, but they all do exactly the same thing. So they take a low-level signal, convert it to electricity, and then we need to boost that audio level up to what's called line level before it goes into your camera or into your computer. So that's where the preamp comes in. So up here I set this normally about 52 decibels. If I bring it down, I'm not sure what audio you're hearing because I've got multiple routing. Does that kill my audio? Has my microphone gone off? And now it's back on. Did that go off and on? I can't hear what you guys are hearing.
It was super low for a bit and then it came back.
Right. So I'm not actually monitoring my PC audio because then I can't hear you. But I'm glad that worked. Okay, we're off to a good start. So what you want to do with your preamp levels is you want to set the level to a point where it's reaching normally about the yellow zone in your meters and not going into the red zone. So the best way of doing that is with headphones. So as I said, I'm not doing it now because then I wouldn't be able to hear you, but that's how I would normally do it. So if I'm monitoring audio in my camera, I would like my camera to have a headphone jack. And this is one of the reasons why I don't like the Sony a6400, because it does not have a headphone jack. The a6600 does. That's the one that replaced the 6400. And the Sony a7 III also does. So the best way to monitor audio is to listen to it. If you can't do that, you can check your meters and you can visually see what the audio levels are just using your meters. So that's what's going on here. I can see this signal for this microphone and it looks about right. So that's where we want to have it. Now, if you're one of these young kids and you get excited, you're going to start screaming into your microphone. What's going to happen then? It's going to push that level beyond where you want it to be. It's going to bring you close to clipping. So this is where we bring in compression. And what's happening with compression is it's taking the loudest parts of your signal and it's just pushing them down. And you can set the compressor at different levels to determine how much you want it to push the loudest parts of your signal down. So I'll demonstrate that here. Right, this is a demonstration of a regular compressor. It has a threshold. I'm going to switch it on. So this blue line here represents the decibel level of the sound, and it has a threshold which by default is set to 0 dB, so it's not doing anything at the moment. If I start to bring it down, so let's go to 23.71 just arbitrarily. So that means that any time my audio level gets above 23.71 dBs, the compressor is going to kick in and it's going to start to push those levels down. And then you have the ratio, and this is where you tell the compressor how much you want it to push it down. So if you bring the ratio right down to here, this is where you're basically limiting. So the sound is going to hit that level and then just flatten. It's never going to go any higher than that. And that's really not for your microphone. We'll get to that in a little bit. What I would normally do is I would set it to something like that. And now if you look up here, we've got the green level for the audio signal. So that's the part you want. And you've got this blue line coming in here, which is where the compressor's actually reducing the gain of the loudest part of the signal. So if I were to start screaming into the microphone, the compressor would really start to push that down, and it would prevent your audio from going into distortion. Now you will hear it, you'll hear the compressor working, but you're not going to get compressed audio. And in some studios you'll find most of the compressors that they use in professional studios are analog, so they're using capacitors and lots of expensive equipment. And they all give you different tonal qualities. So you'll see all the audio geeks on the forums arguing about which compressor's the best and all of that stuff. All the vintage tube amps and tube compressors, and it gets geeky very fast. But that's just a basic overview of how compression works. And when you get into your video editor, I use DaVinci Resolve, and it has exactly the same features. I've also used Premiere Pro, and again, it has the same features built in. So we're going to hop on over to DaVinci Resolve, and I will show you the same techniques in the video editor. So any questions so far?
Do you want to answer one quick question? We've got a question that says, does clipping reduce the hazy noise?
What's the hazy noise?
Sugar, do you want to elaborate on your question?
Yeah, it was just like, you know, when like it's like that background, like that sort of noise.
Oh, okay, yeah, right. No, it doesn't.
So I wasn't really sure if clipping was the one that did that, or was that another component that does that?
Clipping is when your audio goes into distortion. What you're talking about is the background noise. So it can be room noise, it can be microphone noise. And compression, which we're going to talk about in a minute, will actually, in some cases, increase that noise. So that's the thing that you have to watch out for, because what happens when you compress the signal is that the overall volume that's going into your camera is going to be lower. So in order to compensate for that drop in volume, you want to use what's called makeup gain. So when you compress the signal, it pushes down the loudest parts, which gives you a lower overall volume. So then what you do to increase the overall volume is you bring up the quieter parts. And that's when you can start to bring in even more room noise. So that's when good quality microphones will help you. That's when good quality preamps in your audio interface will help you. And that's when just taking care of your room will help you, because, I mean, I'm in my living room now. I don't have any sound treatment on the walls, so the sound will be reverberating off the walls. So this microphone here is a dynamic microphone, which means in order to get a good signal to noise ratio, I have to be right up at it. So there's only a couple of inches between my voice and the microphone, which means that it's giving you a really good signal to noise ratio. If you have a microphone like a condenser, I don't know if this will come into the frame. The kind of one that Ali's using in his videos that he has overhead. I've got one up here as well. That kind of microphone will work from further away, but that means there's a danger it will pick up more room noise. And so that's why he's using a hyper cardioid microphone or a shotgun microphone. So the pattern of the microphone is hyper focused between the voice and the capsule in the mic. So it's rejecting sound from behind, it's rejecting sound from the sides. It's only picking up a sort of laser beam focus of audio. So that's how you get around the signal to noise ratio when the mic has to be further away from you. You'll see a lot of people using like one of these. So this is the Rode Video Micro. Cost about 40 quid. And it plugs straight into your camera. These are great, but if your camera is 6 feet away or more, the microphone's going to pick up a lot of room noise. So that's just something to be aware of. That's why a lot of people on, well, particularly on like news broadcasts and TV shows, when they bring in a guest, they'll have a lavalier mic attached to their clothing, because that puts the microphone close to the source of the audio. So it's all about signal to noise ratio. Did that help you with your question?
Yeah, that was sick, man. Thank you, Cams.
Cool. So the normal edit window in Resolve looks like that. Is anybody here using Resolve apart from Esther? I can't see the gallery view. Nobody? Well, the principles apply in any editor, but I particularly like the audio features of Resolve. So down at the bottom, they have the audio tab, which is called Fairlight. And if you look over on the right, you can see that there are 3 audio tracks. So that's similar to what you were looking at on my mixer. And then there's the main, or what they call the bus. So the main bus is where all of the 3 audio tracks get summed and sent before they get to your computer. So if I play some audio of Aquarium, Aquarium has become one of my favourite bands of all time. And you'll see if you go to my listening stats on Last FM, you'll see that Aquarium are at the top. So you can see the music track is listening charts. So that's where I was introduced much higher. Aquarium, and also the music of Vladimir. And then those 3 tracks are all getting mixed out to the main bus over here. So I think what we'll do is we'll come to the end of that. Right, I'm going to select audio track 3, which you can select either over here or over here. It doesn't matter, you're selecting the exact same thing. So if you want to do a voiceover into your digital editor, up at the top here where we select controls and input. So if you have an audio interface going into your computer, this is what it will look like. I have my Studio Live mixer set up with a left and a right channel. So all of the channel strips on my mixer get summed together and sent just as one stereo pair into DaVinci Resolve. And we want to send these audio inputs across to audio track 3, left and right. So all we've done is patch the inputs to the outputs. Does that make sense so far? So we hit patch, close out of that. And now if I hit the record button here, nothing happens. Why is that? Well, that's because we haven't record armed the track. So over here on the track in the mixer, you can see we've got R, S and M. So it's record, solo and mute. So if we hit R, now you can see that I'm getting some signal coming onto track 3. You can check the level of the signal here. Now I'm hearing an echo in my voice. Are you hearing an echo? Hopefully not. You are. Right. Well, that's a demonstration of how you get the audio into your video editor as a voiceover. Now let's have a look at how you would compress that. Over here on the effects rack, you can choose all sorts of different effects. This one here is called the voice channel or the vocal channel. And in a vocal channel, you tend to get three things. You'll get EQ, you'll get compression, and you'll get limiting. Sometimes you get noise gate as well. This one doesn't have a gate. But mentioning gate, this would be useful for Sugar's question, because what a noise gate will do is exactly what Sugar's asking about, which is to reduce the background hiss that can come from microphones or from room noise. So if I go back to my audio interface to show you how the gate works. So I'm still selected my microphone channel here. If I come up to this section here where it says gate and I turn it on, this is going to affect the signal to noise ratio. And it should be gating the signal now. If I do that, now you can see the gate here is kicking in. I don't know if you can still hear me or not, but it should cut out all of the background hiss, and so you would monitor that. I'll just come back here in case you couldn't hear me. What you would do there is you would monitor the audio in your headphones and you'd play around with the gate controls so that the audio is only going to get picked up once the decibel level gets above a certain level. So it will pick up your voice as soon as you start talking, but as soon as you stop talking, it will go dead. So you won't hear the background hiss, you won't hear lawnmowers outside, you won't hear planes going overhead. So that's when you would use a gate. DaVinci Resolve doesn't have one, at least I haven't found one. I'm not sure about Premiere Pro, but in any sort of audio interface that you would plug into your PC, you might find a gate. So we'll come back into Resolve. The first component here is called a high pass filter. So this is where we're getting into the realms of equalization, which is when you get to change the volume levels for different frequencies. So the voice, the human voice doesn't have any range between about, hang on, need to mute. The human voice doesn't really go below 100 Hertz. So there's absolutely no point in having your audio picking up frequencies below 100 Hertz, because then it might be picking up noises that you don't want. So that's what the high pass filter does. It's also called a low cut filter. High pass just means it's letting the high frequencies pass through and get into your editor. It's cutting out the low frequencies. So this one's set to 151 Hertz. You can see that from about 200 Hertz, the curve goes down, and when it gets to 50 Hertz, it's completely flat, so it's picking up nothing at all below 50 Hertz. You can adjust that to different thresholds. I use this also when I'm playing acoustic guitar, because a typical acoustic guitar doesn't put out frequencies that low either, so it makes sense just to cut them out. Equalization. Now, everybody's voice is different, every microphone is different, and every recording space is different. So there are no templates that you can find from somebody else that will work for you. This is when you have to start using your ears. So basic equalizer breaks it down into low frequencies, mids, and highs. So what I tend to do is I grab a middle frequency and I boost the gain and I make the band really narrow, and then I start to sweep. Now I can't actually hear what this is doing. I don't know if you can either. Is this affecting my audio? No, so this is not my PC audio, this is my other, but this is what you would do. You would start to sweep the frequency as you're talking into the microphone, and you will hear how that affects the sound of your voice. And usually when you're doing it this way, if you're boosting a frequency by that much, you'll find a certain frequency when it starts to sound really, really bad. That's the frequency you want to cut. So when you find something that sounds like a woo or a roo, some sort of horrible sound, then you would go in and you would bring that frequency down like that. And that's how you would shape the sound of your voice with equalization. So this is very, very basic. You can spend hundreds and hundreds of pounds doing courses on equalization, and I know that because I've done that. But for basic EQ, that's how it works. Mids, highs, and lows. And sweep the frequencies and adjust to taste. And then we've got the compressor. So we've already spoken about compressors. This one works in exactly the same way as the one that we looked at in my audio interface. You set your threshold and your ratio, and you will see the gain reduction coming in here. So there's no signal coming in at the moment. I'm not sure why that is. It's probably because I haven't hit the R button over here. But if I do that, it's going to start to give you feedback and latency on my voice. So I will just keep it like this for a few seconds. I will continue talking and I will boost the levels, and you will start to hear the difference that that's making. And then you will start to see the gain reduction kicking in over here. So it's exactly the same as it was in my audio interface. But seeing as I'm already doing all of that in my digital mixer, I don't have to do it again in the video editor. But if you're going straight into your video editor from your camera, then you would want to start using these tools in the editor. All right, so any questions on that?
We do have a few questions in the, is that the end of the audio section?
For that demonstration, I'm going to show you the same thing, but just using a basic Rode microphone going into a Sony camera. And I'll show you how you would change the levels just on your camera, because I think that's probably how most people are going to be shooting, rather than with fancy schmancy mixers and stuff like that.
There are a few questions, but maybe do the audio section and then take all the questions.
Good call, right. I did mention briefly the polar patterns of the microphones. I'm going to go in and show you what I mean by that. If I show you the polar pattern for this microphone here. So this microphone I'm talking into now is called an end address microphone, which means I talk into the end and not the side. And this image here shows you the polar pattern of the microphone. So where the 0 degrees is, that's right where you want to be talking into. It's going to pick up the sound around, and as you get to the sides and when you get behind the microphone, it's going to reject the audio. So that's what this picture here demonstrates. In the middle here and down to 180 degrees, that's behind the microphone. So it's rejecting sound. So as my voice goes out, hits the wall and comes back, the mic's not going to pick that up. So it really helps to get rid of the room noise. Now let's look at my shotgun mic, which is the Synco D2, which I bought after the gear workshop that Ali did in week 2, was it? And he suggested the Sennheiser 416, which I couldn't find for any less than 700 quid, which I wasn't about to drop on a microphone. So I did some reviews and I found this Chinese version of the 416 made by a company called Synco, which came in at 230 quid. So I thought that one will do. And I've been using it in my last 2 YouTube videos and I'm really, really happy with it. And there's the polar pattern of this microphone. It's called a hypercardioid, which means shotgun basically. It's a technical term for shotgun mic. So it's laser focused, rejecting from the side, rejecting from the back. It does pick up a little bit from behind, whereas this one doesn't. This one was a lot more expensive, so that's kind of what you're putting your money into when you're spending 700 quid or more on a microphone. So that's how polar patterns work, and that's how Esther and I hooked up right at the beginning of the course, because she put out a microphone question in the circle group, and I was like, I know about mics, and we've been friends ever since. So the Rode Video Micro, which is this little camera attachable mic here, this is what the polar pattern looks like on that. So it's not bad. You see it's got the same sort of shape, rejecting from the sides. And I can demonstrate that with this. If I go to the side of this one, if I talk into it from the side, you'll hear that my voice changes. If I come back to the front of the microphone, it gets better. So when you're talking into a microphone above your head, you want to have it angled towards your mouth. I mean, I suppose you all know that already, but I'll put it out there just in case. You don't want to be talking into the side of the mic because it's not going to sound very good.